Kicking off today, I'm excited to introduce a colleague of mine, Ted Evgeniadis from the Lower Susquehanna Riverkeeper. Ted is a part alliance builder, part diplomat, part educator, and when necessary, an unrelenting voice and defender of our rights for clean water in the Lower Susquehanna River and throughout the Chesapeake Bay. He uses education, scientific monitoring, pollution patrols, partnerships, public engagement, research, any tool possible, including legal action, to protect and restore the Susquehanna River's waterways. Ted's going to talk to us about a historic settlement agreement that just happened at the end of last year on the Conowingo Dam licensing. And I want to point out this topic is so unique. Just as this summit touches on climate and environment in day one and two, a lot of our work, especially as river keepers, is at that intersection of climate change and water quality. And this is an important reminder as you hear Ted talk about how fighting for climate doesn't mean that we have to give up water quality protections and our right today for clean water. So with that, Ted, I'm going to turn it over to you, man, and go ahead and get started.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot. I want to thank everyone for joining today. Conowingo Dam and what's happened here over the last, say, 16 years is certainly not a 10-minute conversation, but I'm going to do my best to pack in a lot of really good information in the next 10 minutes. So bear with me as we go and dive into a lot of the inner workings of the settlement agreement and what's just happened here. I just want to start out too, to talk about. I'm sure you guys had a really good day yesterday talking about other energy projects. This is Conowingo Dam. This is a hydroelectric facility. Hydro is different from other facilities in that we know that hydro is considered a renewable source of energy. However, with that comes a lot of impacts to the river, to the Chesapeake Bay, to the environment, to the ecology of the river. Um, and so we'll get into that here. So we'll get into why it matters. We'll get into a little brief history about the dam reconsideration process, which we just went through, and just an overview of the conclusion of that and the settlement agreement and the new water quality certification. Next slide. Okay, so why it matters. Conowingo Dam, this dam has been around for a very long time. It was constructed back in 1928. And what happens with hydroelectric dams and even nuclear as well, most of the time they're not going to run on a 5-year permit like we see NIPD's permits and those sorts of permits. These licenses they operate for anywhere from 25 years to 50 years. And in this case for Conowingo, we're looking at a 50-year license. So ever since the dam was built, it has altered flows. Obviously, if you can see a massive dam, it's going to alter flows. It's also going to block fish, shad, herring, and eels, and other migratory fish. Our aquatic habitat, the dam fundamentally alters the ecology of the river. Obviously, with that force there, it's going to stop flow. It's going to impede flow and damage aquatic habitats. Our shellfish, before the Conowingo Dam was built, we can probably assume that there were millions of mussels per river mile without all of the other hydroelectric dams as well. Today, we're lucky to see a couple, mussels per river mile, and that is an effect from the Conowingo Dam and other dams along the Susquehanna. We're also, obviously the dam kills fish through its turbines, and it obviously disrupts the natural timing and delivery of sediment transport down the Susquehanna River. Next slide. So, like I was just saying, the sediment portion of this is a very big deal. I know a lot of folks down in Maryland, and especially those in the Eastern Shore, are very concerned about sediment pollution and what's happening behind this dam. So, over the last 50 years, there hasn't really been any sort of best management practices being put in place, such as dredging. So, over time, the dam has accumulated sediments and pollutants which stack behind it. And what we see is when we get storm events that depending upon the flow, scour will occur and it will deliver sediments, nutrients, and other pollution downstream to the Susquehanna River and ultimately to the Chesapeake Bay, especially the upper Chesapeake Bay. Next slide. And these are just a couple pictures here. The other one may or may not load, but you can see there's a debris field, a lot of trash and debris, also stockpiles behind the dam. Constellation Energy, who owns the dam, they do they remove trash and debris on a regular basis. So we'll get into that here in a second as well. Next slide. And if you were to go back a slide before, you would have seen, some of the crest gates open up, and we'll see that now. The scour threshold has changed over the years. So, let's say 15 years ago, the scour threshold would have been, in a cubic feet per second flow, maybe 400,000 cubic feet per second. Now we're seeing scour events happen at a much less uh, as far as intensity goes of the river and flow. We might see it at maybe 150 or 175 cubic feet per second, and we'll see those scour events happen. So, brief history about Conowingo Dam and some of the relicensing. So, I mentioned that the dam was constructed in 1928. And in 2009, the dam was up for relicense in 2014. And part of a hydro dam relicensing, it's called the integrated licensing process. And so the dam owner, regulatory bodies, state agencies, NGOs, the public, 5 years before the dam is up for relicense, there will be an opportunity for the public and everyone else to suggest studies. So, do we want to study, fish passage and to see, how many fish get upriver, or looking at, dredging scenarios and things like that. So 2009 is when our organization got involved in this, and we became part of the process. We suggested different studies to the dam owner and to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So that was the point in time that we got involved. And the state of Maryland wanted a study to get done. They wanted a sediment transport study to show what's happening throughout all of these lower Susquehanna River dams, and how is sediment being transported from these dams and then ultimately to the Chesapeake Bay. However, the dam owner refused to do that study, and so in 2014, Maryland, they decided to not issue a water quality certification for the dam because that study was not completed. So there were a couple years that went back and forth where Exelon submitted a water quality certification request, and Maryland did not fulfill it until that sediment study was completed, which eventually it was completed in 2016. Next slide. So once Maryland got the study, they were able to issue the water quality certification, which that happened in 2018. We reviewed the water quality certification. We saw it was pretty good, except it didn't really address dredging. It didn't really address mitigating the impacts of scour and mitigating the impacts of how all of these nutrients and sediments are reaching the Chesapeake Bay. Our organization in Waterkeepers Chesapeake, we filed an administrative appeal, and also the dam owners also did as well. And fast forwarding to 2019, considering our challenges and the dam owner's challenges, the dam owner and the state winded up going behind closed doors. They crafted a settlement agreement that did not even come close to some of the provisions in the water quality certification, and was really woefully inadequate to address the harms and impacts of the dam. And so I think we can go to the next slide. The what the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission did was they took that settlement agreement and they inserted it into the federal license for the dam for the next 50 years. The settlement agreement was an unlawful agreement. It was basically, they tried to wish away the water quality certification and tried to do away with the work that was already done. And again, a lot of the provisions in it did not meet water quality standards, and did not meet Federal Power Act regulations and statutes. So our organization, once that license was issued by FERC, our organization challenged that license in the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, and eventually the court agreed with us and they vacated the license, and remanded it back down to FERC. So what that left was the state dealing with those administrative appeals from back in 2018. So what happened next was we all met and we came into we went into a mediation, and for about a year and a half, we discussed all of the issues at Conowingo and came together to craft a settlement agreement that addressed water quality standards, that addressed fish passage, that addressed dredging, that addressed trash and debris, and many other facets and pieces of this. We can go to the next slide. And bear with me here. I know I'm approaching time, but give me about one more minute or two. The state of Maryland, before the mediation process, they took information from partners, from NGOs, from the public, to better inform themselves. Again, since there was some time between 2018 and 2023, it was a good idea for them to look at new information. Next slide. So basically, our mediation concluded. We have a new water quality certification, and that water quality certification has been submitted to FERC. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission will be either approving that water quality certification and issuing a license, or they will deny it, which we hope they don't do, but that's always the case. So we are very confident we have a really good water quality certification, and we should see FERC approve this. Next slide. There might be a picture there missing if you can't see it, but we have trash and debris removal estimated at $77.8 million. We also have water quality and resiliency initiatives that valued at $87.6 million. Next slide. Dredging. We have dredging in our water quality certification and settlement agreement, which is historic. We wouldn't have gotten that if it wasn't for Waterkeepers Chesapeake and Lower Susquehanna Riverkeeper. We also have wildlife passage. We also have freshwater mussel restoration. You can go to the next slide. I think you should capture that. And we also have invasive species management valued at $9.4 million. And again, I said freshwater mussel restoration valued at $23.3 million. So unfortunately, we did suffer an administrative appeal. The Clean Chesapeake Coalition filed a administrative appeal on the water quality certification settlement. We actively, between the state, my partners at Waterkeepers Chesapeake, and myself, we actively engaged with public officials, county officials from the counties that were part of that appeal, and we were able to work with them and to address the issues that they had. And later on January 2nd, that appeal was officially withdrew. So we're very happy about that. We know that if an appeal did go through, this would have upended and delayed very, very important investments for clean water. Next slide, and I think that might be it. But I do want to end with just a note to say that hydroelectric dam relicensing is very complex. Obviously, in this case, it took us 16 years to get to a final agreement, but we as the people and as NGOs and as residents, especially in a community where a project is happening, we have the ability to be part of the process, and to really allow ourselves to suggest studies and to make sure that in this case, it's a 50-year license. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So for the public to be involved is crucially important so that water quality is restored and that provisions and conditions are in place to further protect our water and protect our communities from pollution.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Ted. And I want to apologize for the technical issues with the photos there. We'll update those photos for when we post this presentation to the website so everyone can see the graphics that you were talking about. Real quick, what does moving forward look like? Are you going to be helping to oversee this? Are you going to be,
Yes.
yeah, what does that look
Yeah,
like?
thanks. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, that's the biggest piece now. So there's a lot of provisions in the license in the forthcoming license that we will have a seat at the table. So for example, all of the investments that are going to be coming into the state, looking at what kind of projects will the state complete over the years. So we'll be at the table making sure that the projects are sound and that the monies are going to be put towards the best bang for the buck projects, and making sure that that the state is fulfilling their role in managing that money correctly and investing it where it should go. In addition to that, we have a lot to do on dredging. So obviously, I mentioned I think it was 19 and change as far as millions of dollars are going to go to dredging. However, it's not going to be enough. We are going to need additional investments and resources for dredging. However, the pathway for dredging is there, and that's the most important piece, is that we have it, it's there. We need to get the studies done. We need to get the dredging experts involved. Land has to be secured, and further studies need to be done, but it's there. And we are very, very fortunate to have that there. And we're looking forward to working with folks in the regulatory industries and legislation and legislators in Maryland to make this happen. We know that the communities south of the dam are suffering, right? When the dam opens up this crest gates, you're getting pollution, you're getting sediments, fishing is shut down, beaches are littered, and oyster beds are smothered. We understand that. We're going to hopefully get to the point where those effects are mitigated, and we can have a cleaner Chesapeake Bay over the next 50 years.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all your work on this, Ted. As you said, this has been a decades-long fight for Lower Susquehanna Riverkeeper, and we appreciate you and your colleagues for staying in it as long as you have. I'll just say it resonates so well with the talk yesterday about nuclear energy and other energy sources, and these licenses are big. We've got to get involved as a community. You've got to stay on top of it, which takes a lot of work. And so, partnering with local groups like Riverkeeper organizations or other watershed groups is a great way to move that forward. So, Ted, thanks again.